It's always fun to speak to this organization. There's a constancy of purpose and philosophy here that I believe deeply in. It bears noting, I think, that little white schoolhouse that is often referenced as we visit with the Ripon Society is a schoolhouse in which a political movement began. And that political movement was rooted in the principles of our nation's Declaration of Independence. You, fellow Republicans, have always stood for policies, the Civil Rights Act, for example, that help increasing numbers of Americans pursue the promise at the heart of the Declaration. For me, it's perhaps best captured by Emma Lazarus's sonnet at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. Some of you remember the line of that sonnet that says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." But there's another line that I really appreciate, a reference to imprisoned lightning. I think imprisoned lightning can be interpreted a lot of different ways, but to me, it's that God-given talent that's within every human being on the face of the earth. And people come to America. They've come to America for generations and will continue to come to America in order to unleash that lightning. That's freedom. That's opportunity. That's what our nation-defining promise is. I'm, of course, honored to participate in any event that's named after Teddy Roosevelt. When TR delivered his commencement address at the Naval Academy's graduation, not in 1995 when I graduated, but in 1902, he said that a battleship cannot be improvised. Which is true. If we hope to lift up all Americans, if we hope to restore faith in our founding promises, if we hope to restore faith in our fundamental institutions, not just government, but all of the basic institutions across our society, I think a battleship-sized task, we all have a lot of work to do. The week before last, as you know, the Senate, on a bipartisan basis, passed our Endless Frontier Act, a collaborative effort between me and, as I say back home at Lincoln Day dinners, Chuck Schumer. It's a Felix and Oscar relationship forged in the gym. I'm working out tirelessly in front of workout videos. This is what you do when your knees go bad. And Chuck Schumer's on his flip phone in the recumbent chair next to me. Right? We're kind of bonded. And it led to discovery that we shared a common interest in arresting the malign influence of communist China and of giving the next generation of Americans opportunities to land 21st century jobs, good paying jobs, especially in places that are sometimes overlooked and among people that feel forgotten or underutilized. So the bill shifts America's posture from defense to offense when it comes to China. It gives our citizens the tools and means to out-innovate, out-compete, and outgrow the Chinese Communist Party. But the bill, in this moment, I like to emphasize, are about more than China. In fact, in the end, it's really not about China. It's about using this moment in our nation's history to become a better version of ourselves. This is exactly what we did during the Cold War. Post-World War II, we decided to invest in ourselves, a GI Bill, the interstate highway system. We had a Sputnik moment. We responded by standing up NASA. We literally, by seeding capital from the federal level in a targeted fashion, we created new industries, like the aerospace industry that now spins off $1 trillion of wealth to the American economy on an annual basis. We created breakthrough, life-saving, life-improving innovations like the MRI. We can do all of this again by harnessing our unique ecosystem here in the United States. EFA seeks to encourage, extend, and leverage our very American impulse to innovate in a way that's been unseen since the space race. It's going to change the way that the federal government invests in key technologies, and it will fund products in fields as diverse as AI, quantum computing, life sciences, genomics, material science, battery storage, and so on. This will be possible because of a bipartisan $81 billion strategic investment in the National Science Foundation, bolstering our science and tech R&D, including $29 billion in a brand new tech and innovation directory. And it will deliver an additional $10 billion to establish regional tech hubs across the country to launch innovative companies, revive American manufacturing, and create these new 21st century good-paying jobs to jumpstart our local communities. I'd have to say, this is especially important to places like my state of Indiana. Especially important for a party that now claims to be the party of the working class. Our policies have to match our rhetoric. Our policies have to match our cultural signaling. And this is a policy that does just that. Just 5 cities, Boston, San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, and Seattle, enjoyed more than 90% of the job growth in advanced sectors like tech, computer manufacturing, biotech, and telecom between 2005 and 2017. I believe in the importance of diversity. I think we need a diverse party. But I also think we need to emphasize geographic diversity. Everyone across this country needs to feel represented. In this hyper-dynamic, hyper-competitive global economy, we need to make sure that we bring everyone along. In 2019, only 3 coastal states, California, Massachusetts, and New York, made up more than 75% of all venture-backed investments in the United States. EFA will help more Americans in more parts of America get more skin in the game. If you make these fundamental investments that flow through universities or flow through our national labs, startups will spin off where the research is occurring. Venture capital will no doubt follow where the research is. Talent will be retained across the heartland. Talent will be attracted to the heartland. And we can see the next Silicon Valleys, the next Bostons and research triangles in areas throughout the country. We don't need to prove in theory what has already worked in practice. This is precisely what we've done throughout the 20th century. Senator Schumer and I and roughly 68 senators in total propose that we do it again. This will have enormous economic consequences. The race to put a man on the moon led to a domino effect that led to some of the developments I've discussed in aerospace. Consumer electronics is another area, computing. And the advances kick-started the economic engine of America in the decades that followed the Second World War, a period of unprecedented prosperity, a period of happiness, a period of togetherness and national unity. It wasn't a perfect time. It wasn't a perfect time. We have never experienced and will never experience a perfect time, but we made some strong advances economically and in other areas throughout those decades. The frontier technologies of the future have the same potential to replicate what we have done in the past. Perhaps even more so, to create new avenues for good work, something everyone wants. Everyone wants a good vocation. And not everyone feels like they have one. It's not the fault of anyone, let me emphasize that. We have populists on the right and the left alike who have become quite crafty, quite skilled, sometimes enchanting, in harnessing the envy and resentment of the population, especially those who feel left behind or undervalued or underappreciated. This is a different avenue. We're trying to offer people hope, an aspirational vision of the future. This investment is critical for both the future of work in the United States and for our national security as we compete with China. The EFA contains provisions that will secure our supply chains as well and reduce our vulnerability to competitors holding critical supplies hostage. After being voted out of the Commerce Committee by an overwhelming vote of 24-4, it was merged with other important bills, and I must give credit where credit is due. Unfortunately, the bill had to be renamed USICA. I'm not sure why it had to be named USICA, but that decision was blessed in short order. I was horrified to learn of its branding. We'll call it USICA. Would you help me out? Let's socialize that. USICA. Okay. But these other bills, there's some great language in here relating to America's diplomacy and development posture, things that I would say are going to be very important to our closest allies as we continue to deepen our relationship with allies like Japan and Australia. There are opportunities to jointly develop, for example, these technologies I've spoken of. We want to crowd in all the talent we can. There are opportunities to jointly invest in these technologies. In fact, I began authoring this legislation with the Trump administration, and it was the estimate of the Trump State Department that for every U.S. dollar invested in, for example, artificial intelligence, we could crowd in 5 U.S. dollar equivalents. So this came from the Trump administration, so let's assume it was 2 U.S. dollar equivalents that could be crowded in. Worst case scenario. And I'm of course kidding. It's a joke. But I mean, there's great opportunity here, because if we think of winning the 21st century, I'll often loosely say that we want this century to be the second American century. But let me be clear to my allies. By that, I mean the international rules-based order that has brought stability and prosperity and opportunity to billions of people around the world in the 20th century. That's really what we want. We want to make sure that that's protected, and working together with our alliance system against the autocratic regime of the Chinese Communist Party is the best way to ensure that's the outcome we realize. So I often say that we Americans have always been drawn to the frontier. We Republicans have also always been drawn to the frontier. Our first standard bearer, John C. Fremont, the great pathfinder. He was an explorer. I hope the Endless Frontier Act encourages our party to take the lead and to find ways to work with the opposition. Together, I think we can unleash this imprisoned lightning across this land and aid so many Americans in their pursuit of happiness. Let us not forget, this was the purpose of that meeting in March of 1854 in the town of Ripon. Our work goes on. Thanks for having me.